Hello and welcome to this quick overview on Otys. Otys is a worker placement game in which the world's got a bit badly wrong and all the cities have been submerged. You'll be sending divers down to these submerged cities to try to claim resources to complete contracts and gain the most victory points. To send these divers down into the abyss, you'll be using tokens positioned next to them. However, each token can only be used once before it needs time to rest. In Otys, you'll be upgrading your divers, manipulating the market, and, more importantly, collecting resources and victory points from the depths of these oceans. There's a lot of waiting around in Otys for other players, and there isn't much player interaction. There's a couple of things that enable you to copy the abilities of other players, but beyond sniping a contract before someone else, you're not going to be screwed over by anyone else. And that's a problem, because it means a large percentage of the game you're doing absolutely nothing at all. Because other players can't really change what your plan is, it means you'll be sitting there instead knowing exactly what you'll do 5, 6, 7 turns ahead. And that just isn't very exciting. So the core mechanic of Otys is the board and the sliding the divers down on this board. And it's a really satisfying experience. Sometimes. The problem is, very quickly, your divers will get slightly nudged out of place, get stuck on one another, and just completely and utterly frustrate you. What should be a really enjoyable, seamless experience often is marred with this sense of absolute frustration that I just can't even get into words how much it annoys me. And it's not just the game design reasoning that causes Otys to have problems. The quality just isn't where it should be. Now, when we got our copy, near enough all the player mats were warped. And this is a big problem for a game where you're constantly sliding and moving and picking up tiles from that board. We had a case where it would often just spin around because the centre was completely different position from the top of the board and it was just wrong. And this is really quite frustrating when, for some reason, Otys manages to have the card that has the picture of the artist and game designer perfect quality. But the actual boards, not so much. It even comes down to the battery icons. Now these battery icons are all the same, they have the same ability. But for some of the battery icons seem to have a lighter background than other battery icons. And we spent quite a long time trying to work out what's the difference between these batteries. And from what we can tell, there isn't a difference. It's just the print quality is different from copy 1 to copy 2. And that's just really frustrating. And it's no excuse in a game that isn't cheap. Now, when are we talking about the visuals? Actually, I like the visuals of the box, and I like the visuals of the boards, but I don't like them together. Now, the box itself is quite a heavy sci-fi look to it, and the board has a much more cartoony look. Both art styles are great, but they don't connect well together. The type of game you expect to get from the box is completely different from the type of game you actually get when you open it, and that's a bit strange. Now, when it comes to playability, Otys is an incredibly heavy iconography-driven game. There is so many icons in this game that it'd be great to have a reference card. Of course, you don't have one. So instead, for the first couple of games, everyone's going to be having to pass that manual around, and it really slowed down our games. And being that you're already having lots of time waiting between each player turn, having reference cards and being able to learn the actual icons would have just been common sense. So the fact that it doesn't have it really frustrates. The rules themselves, they're okay. There's a couple of points that add a bit of confusion, but the rules, we can pick up the game pretty quickly. But once again, you can't pick up 20 icons immediately. It's frustrating. For me, Otys just isn't the game I was hoping for. There isn't enough player interaction, and there isn't enough engine building. The state of your game at the start is going to feel very similar to the state of your game at the end, and after an hour of playing, that just isn't rewarding enough. Otys, I enjoyed the principles and the mechanics, but I just felt the execution wasn't right, and unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend it. It's so frustrating because it's so close to being there. But that was my quick overview on Otys. Don't forget to like, subscribe and comment in the sections below. I'm sure plenty of you will think I'm completely wrong on this. And do check out some of our other videos, which I shall now handily place next to my head. God, just click one already.